close call on the Ross Island Bridge. A trucker forced to slam on his brakes as that minivan comes to a sudden stop. What that driver did next.
This is K2 News at 5 on your side.
But first tonight, we are continuing to follow developing news out of Milwaukee. SWAT teams are surrounding an apartment where police say a man may have a gun and is making threats.
Let's get right to K2's Chris Lytle. He's live at the scene. What is the latest, Chris?
Yeah, we have some brand new information. Milwaukee police just telling me about a minute ago that they have begun some evacuations here at the apartment complex. This is near Southeast Harrison Street and Southeast 26. This is the Crystal Lake Apartments. Now, this is all for substantial police activity. It started around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Milwaukee police say they did a welfare check on the man's apartment. That's when officers say the man threatened to use a gun to harm himself, police, and anyone else around. He's barricaded himself inside, and officers are trying to negotiate with him right now. It's about 5 o'clock, so as you could imagine, folks are returning home to find they can't get home because of the police activity. Now, we talked with Joe, a neighbor. He says he is planning to pick up his daughter at a family member's apartment inside the police line. Police told him he's out of luck until this ends.
Well, it was worrisome. I mean, my kid's in there, so I was definitely a little bit worried. And yeah, so I don't know. Sorry, I'm a little, little thrown off by this.
In addition to calling in the SWAT team, Milwaukee PD asked the Behavioral Health Unit to respond. Several highly trained negotiators will talk with this upset man to try to bring this to a peaceful end. That's the goal here, to de-arm this man and get him the help he needs while keeping everyone else safe. Officers do not believe there is any danger to the public, but they are prepared to make some evacuations, and they are doing that right now. For other folks, if they don't come to your apartment, they're asking folks stay inside and shelter in place. Again, no major road closures outside of Southeast 26. We'll continue to monitor this situation as it unfolds and bring you the latest information as we learn it. For now, live in Milwaukee, Chris Lytle, K2 News.
I was kind of freaked out, like just the thought of it, but I'm glad no one was hurt.
On the same day as another deadly school shooting, a report of an armed student in Lebanon sends fear and panic into students, staff, and parents. Also forced several schools in the area to go into lockdown. Those lockdowns lasted for hours after a student reported seeing a classmate with a handgun.
What's fortunate here, though, is there were no acts of violence there. K2's Lachey Wesley is live in Lebanon now. A pretty frightening ordeal for everybody involved out there today, Lachey.
Absolutely. Now, police do tell us that they do have a student in custody. They believe that that student did bring a handgun to this school. Now, all schools in the area were shut down. Here at this school, we're told that officers went door to door, classroom to classroom, looking for that student. Lebanon high school students were on lockdown for several hours this morning before they were released to their parents.
We are now exiting lockdown.
Kate Slingleff took video from inside her classroom.
Afterwards, everybody was really scared.
School officials tell us a student reported to staff after seeing a classmate with a gun. Immediately, the school went into lockdown mode.
Shut all the doors, lock them, and to attempt to get everybody quiet.
Students say it was that way for several hours.
My daughter texted me.
Parents tell us they got the news from their children. Rhonda Milligan says it was hard to get information.
Even the flash alert that we have for checking local school news didn't have any information other than the school was on lockdown.
Superintendent Robert Hess says information was limited because they didn't have a lot at the time.
We don't want to release inaccurate information, so we released all the information we could as we knew it.
Police tell us the student was detained and is working with police.
It makes me sick to my stomach that we have to do this, but we will take every precaution that we can to ensure the safety of this community as well as the students inside.
We spoke with Kate just after she was released from school.
I don't feel as safe coming here as I did 3 hours ago, and now I feel a little more safe that I'm going home.
And after hearing about more deadly violence at a U.S. school today, parents were thankful their kids were safe.
You hear about this in other communities, and it's a little different when it hits this close to home.
Police do tell us that this investigation is ongoing. Now, if a student did bring a handgun to this school, they could be expelled. Live in Lebanon, Lachey Wesley, K2 News.
All right, Lachey, thank you. And the 17-year-old arrested in a deadly school shooting in Santa Fe, Texas today just had his first court appearance where a judge denied bond. The judge ordered Dimitris Pagorchis held without bail on capital murder charges. Pagorchis allegedly opened fire this morning at Santa Fe High School about 35 miles southeast of Houston. At least 10 people are dead, 10 others are wounded. Authorities say he used a shotgun and revolver that belonged to his father. Police also found explosives at the scene and are now searching his home. Students say that scene was absolute bedlam.
Everybody just started running outside, and next thing you know, everybody looks, and you hear boom, boom, boom.
The suspect is a student at the school. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the shooter came to the attention of police earlier when he wore a shirt on his Facebook page that read "Born to Kill." This school shooting is at least the third in the last 8 days and the 22nd since the beginning of the year.
Even if a shooting doesn't happen in your town or at your school, it can be personally overwhelming. But coping with a violent world is something doctors and others say you can learn to do.
K2's Joe English is live in Northeast Portland with this one. And Joe, mental health experts say a lot of people come to them just feeling helpless.
And whether it's at school or at work or even at home, a lot of people are getting that feeling that they just don't have any control over the bad things they hear about happening in the world. And it can be exhausting emotionally, mentally, even physically, a little bit or a lot. And that's why we set out to talk to some experts today. We talked to Dr. Ryan Dix, a psychologist with Providence Medical Group Northeast. He says realizing that you're not the only one who may be feeling these feelings, anxious or depressed by the violence you hear about, that's important. Normalizing those feelings is what he calls it, and he says it's a good place to start. Another recommendation he has is to get out and get around people. Get involved with the events of the day. Do something proactive. It can be something like calling your legislator.
Joining a school board, whether it's joining a community action committee or some type of event where they're able to feel like they're making a difference and likely are making a difference.
Well, maybe you want to do it in the form of a walkout or a protest march. That's up to you. But doctors say getting more exercise is a great coping mechanism. That'll make you feel better. And just finding somebody you feel comfortable talking to about things. It might be family, might be friends, it might be a doctor, maybe a clergyman or member. But seek professional help if you feel too much worry and anxiety, or get to the point where you're at the other end of the spectrum and you just don't care. Doctors say, remember, what works for one person doesn't work for everybody. And a good starting point is all the things that we just mentioned. The end point where you get to where you're feeling happier, that can be different for everybody. In Northeast Portland, Joe English, K2 News.
All right, Joe, thank you. And stay with K2 News as we continue to learn more about the deadly school shooting in Texas. We will post updates on KATU.com and on our social media pages. And ABC News will have the very latest coming up at 5:30 tonight on World News Tonight with David Muir.
New at 5, 2 men in court accused of a brutal attack on a Portland golf course. Police say Matthew Leo and Jacob Self randomly assaulted 2 players at Rose City Golf Course on May 5th. One of the men was struck so hard it caused the head of the club to break off. He suffered cuts to his forearms while trying to shield the club from hitting his head. And the other man was struck in the back with enough force to bend the club. The victims and a witness were able to hold down the suspects until police arrived.
Well, for the second time in 5 weeks, Beaverton police arrest a man for peeping through strangers' windows, and they're looking for even more victims now. Diego Lopez Herrera was most recently arrested on Tuesday for allegedly peering into a window on Southwest Alice Lane. He was also arrested on April 7th for an almost identical incident that happened on Southwest Electric Street. Both victims were adult women. If you have any other information about this one, contact Beaverton Police.
Well, 2 Gresham police officers are on paid leave after shooting and killing a man.
They say the man threatened those officers with a weapon early this morning. K2's Bob High is live at the scene where that shooting happened. And Bob, there was a crash right before that shooting?
Yes, Steve, but Gresham police say the officers were not chasing that SUV at the time of that crash. Take a look behind me here. You can still see the skid marks where the SUV ran off the street here, plowed through some boulders, and ran over these signs here, and eventually came to a stop down the street there where that shooting happened. Gresham police spent Friday morning documenting evidence strewn out along several blocks near the shooting scene where the suspect's SUV crashed.
It was sudden, very sudden. I was surprised about that because I almost felt it.
Don Dugas says he was awake watching TV when the crash happened just after midnight. Gresham police first responded to a call about a suspicious vehicle about a mile away, and when they got there, the driver took off. Don Dugas says he's seen more and more suspicious vehicles around the neighborhood in the past few months.
To be honest with you, I've done it myself. I've called the police department a few times, reported suspicious vehicles around here, cars parked, double parked, doing things.
Police say officers didn't chase the SUV, but did look for it. Two eventually found the SUV crashed on Southwest Pleasant View Drive.
They went to make contact with the driver, who immediately threatened them with a weapon.
Police aren't saying why the man got out of his car as officers approached the vehicle. Gresham police say both officers opened fire on the man.
They shot their duty weapons at the subject, who was pronounced deceased at the scene.
Did you recover anything?
We did recover a weapon in the scene, yes. We just can't specify what it is at this time.
The license plate on the front of Don Dugas' pickup shows he supports law enforcement, but he also feels sorry for the officers and the man who felt he had to confront police with deadly consequences.
I'm just sad that somebody felt that they had to do what they had to do to risk their lives to do that both ways.
Police have not said who the man is who was shot and killed by police officers. The two officers involved are on paid leave, as we said, and that is standard procedure in these kinds of officer-involved shootings. Live in Gresham, Bob Hahn, K2 News.
All right, Bob, thank you. This is brand new at 5 now. Sometimes one of the most difficult things about mental illness can be talking about it. Now one local woman is hoping to help others out there stop the stigma and just keep talking.
K2's Kelly Azer is live in News Control. And Kelly, she has a unique conversation starter.
Oh, she sure does. Now, tattoos have always been a conversation starter, if you will, but Becca Miles' tattoo is just a little bit different. Take a look at it. Looking at it from one angle, it says, "I'm fine," something Becca says she used to say all the time when she was asked how she's doing. She called it a facade or a front so that she didn't have to talk too much about how she was really feeling. From another angle, her tattoo says "Save me," which she says is the other side of her depression, desperately wanting to be understood. Becca says when she was a sophomore in college, she was diagnosed officially with depression. About 9 months later, she got the tattoo and told her friends and family on Facebook. That post went viral, and Becca is a self-proclaimed introvert, but says if the post helped one person, then it was worth all of the attention. Since getting help, she realizes depression has been a part of her life longer than she first acknowledged.
I didn't feel like myself. And even at that, later I realized just in my own studies and through therapy and all that stuff that my normal wasn't where it should have been.
Now, over the past few years, Becca has taken her story and shared it with as many people as possible. She says that we have to get talking and knock down the stigma that surrounds mental health. Now, Becca says she hopes to help as many people as she can. Coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, hear how it took hitting rock bottom for her to finally get help and how you can help others in your life. We're live in News Control. Kelly Azer, K2 News.
Kelly, thank you. And we will be talking about youth mental health during next week's town hall. You can catch it streaming live on K2.com or our Facebook page on May 22nd. And we'll re-air it twice on K2 on June 3rd. We also have a quiz for parents and teens to take on our website in hopes of getting a better idea of how mental health impacts kids.
Still ahead tonight, a very close call caught on camera. Check this out, what this minivan driver was doing in the middle of the Ross Island Bridge. Dave?
Cloudy skies today again, Steve. Cooler than normal temperatures, but get ready for a warm-up. I think daytime highs in the 80s returning. I'll show you when.
Plus, it kills more women than anything else. We talked to a local woman who nearly died from heart disease, the symptoms she says you can't ignore. It is the #1 killer of women, and doctors at OHSU are working to ensure no woman falls through the cracks when it comes to recognizing heart disease. K2's Jackie LeBrack is on your side with how you can protect yourself and your loved ones.
And then we'll move into your sock.
When Jerry Randalls is on her Pilates mat,
Trying to strike that balance between the upper and lower half here.
she's happy.
Awesome.
The 57-year-old is adamant about getting in a good workout each day at the Multnomah Athletic Club because she battles heart disease.
Heart disease in women is the #1 killer of women when it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
It nearly killed her about 2 years ago.
I started feeling this incredible pressure moving from there down my back, down my chest, and down both arms. It didn't hurt. It felt like a real warming sensation.
She was on her mat and about to have a heart attack.
This is your left anterior descending artery.
Cardiologist Dr. Shamoli Shah says that's the artery feeding the biggest part of the heart muscle. Jerry's was blocked.
Look at the width of that right there, just from the distance from here to here, that tube, and then compare what it looks like right there and how narrow that is.
Jerry had been ignoring symptoms like fatigue for some time.
We as women, we have this tendency to not think of ourselves first.
She also didn't think about biology.
My father had died of a massive coronary at 41.
Doctors say family history is critical.
Women under-recognize and in many cases are under-treated when it comes to cardiovascular disease. And or there's a delay in recognition and treatment.
So Dr. Shah has teamed up with the Center for Women's Health at OHSU, developing a women's cardiovascular program for both detection and prevention.
It's a wonderful model. It's kind of a one-stop shop for women who want to come to the doctor and want to identify with one place.
Jerry had surgery to repair her heart and now sees Dr. Shah regularly.
I feel 10 years younger. I feel better than I felt in 6 years.
Jerry's also supporting other women, leading a local support group called Mended Hearts for Survivors of Heart Disease, because it's a tough recovery.
What we know about mental health after a cardiac event is that addressing it is key. And when symptoms of anxiety or depression are not addressed formally, it can increase the risk of a second event.
Jerry says she's so strong now in part because of her classmates and instructors at the MAC.
They supported me throughout my recovery here. I would show up. There were times where I couldn't do what I wanted to do and I would cry, and they would be here. They were here. And they still are.
And so is she.
I am full of a tremendous amount of gratitude for all the people in my life.
Jackie Lebrecht, K2 News.
And symptoms of heart disease can vary greatly. It's important to keep track of your numbers like cholesterol, blood pressure, and family history. So bottom line is if you don't feel right, doctors say don't wait. Demand an appointment right away.
And I'm going to get an appointment with Dave Selesky right now because he's going to take me downtown Portland, aren't you, Dave?
Downtown Portland, and show you we have a mostly cloudy late afternoon, early evening out there. It's 68 degrees. We're sitting right at our daytime high. 80s.
That is about the perfect forecast right there, David. Thank you, sir.
Well, this is the video that had us all asking, what were they thinking? Up next, what the driver of this minivan did in the middle of the Ross Island Bridge.
No fire should be happening in school hours.
This is coming up tonight, new at 6 and only on K2. A student shares disturbing video of a fight breaking out inside a local school. What she says administrators need to do differently and the school district's response. That's coming up new at 6 only right here on K2 News.
Check that out. A driver making a U-turn in the middle of the Ross Island Bridge. Alex Shevchuk captured the footage just before noon yesterday. The driver of the minivan apparently decides they're heading the wrong way. So instead of waiting to get to the end of the bridge, they do a U-turn very slowly in the middle of the road. Alaska Airlines marked a historic milestone recently.
And it happened on a flight heading right here to PDX.
Piloted by 2 African-American female pilots for the first time in Alaska Airlines history.
That's Captain Tara Wright and First Officer Mallory Cave making that announcement. They piloted Flight 361 from San Francisco to Portland this past Mother's Day. Alaska Airlines shared this video on their Facebook page, calling it History in the Making. I like the way they came right out there and talked to the folks and told them exactly what they were seeing. It was history.
Historic flight. We're back with more local news in just a half hour, right after World News Tonight with David Mears.
Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you soon.